Hi and welcome to ProfileTree TV. Today I'm very excited to have Astra McNicholl in from the Itty Bitty Book Co, and I can't wait to hear your story and all the exciting things you do. So maybe you want to introduce yourself and give us a little bit about your background.
Sure, thank you so much for having me here today. So my name is Astra McNicholl. A bit about me personally, I grew up with a family who liked to explore and travel, and we went on a lot of adventures. We lived in South Africa and the Caribbean and Australia and England and America, and I was born in Scotland actually, so just across the water. I met my husband Al about 13 years ago now. We met in England and then we moved here 3 months after we got together, and I fell in love with Ireland, and we travelled around Ireland a bit before we settled here, which is close to where his family's from. So that's how I ended up where I am now, really.
Wow, so a lot of adventures, a lot of life experience. I'm sure you saw a lot, and that's obviously all fed into what you do now. Mm-hmm. So then where did you get the inspiration or the idea for the Itty Bitty Book Co then?
Well, that came from, I've always loved quotes, and as a child I used to write little bits of song lyrics and quotes on my school books and things, so I've always had sort of an affinity to how some words put together can have a really positive impact and help to change your mindset. And then the first Itty Bitty book was created in 2012 at Christmas time. My older sister was about to go off sailing around the world, and she was going on a small sailboat, so she couldn't take anything big with her. So I got out my crafting supplies and I handmade a little itty bitty positivity book and put all of my favourite quotes in it and just things that would be uplifting and fun to her if she was ever having just missing home even, or just having a bit of a sad day. The thing that she loves most about me is my sort of happy vibe and my positivity. So I wanted to put a little bit of that into something that she could take with her, and that was the very first Itty Bitty book. She absolutely loved it and showed a bunch of her friends and said, like, you should really make these. I would love to give them to other people. And actually the process of making a book that seemed to be like the best part of my personality and putting it out into the world was just really, really satisfying. And I was pregnant at the time with my son, and I decided actually that it would be really amazing if I could make a proper business out of this. So I made a few more that Christmas, and we opened up our Etsy store and sold a few online. And then my son was born in February, and my husband went back to work after 3 weeks. And like I mentioned to you before, he lasted an hour and a half back in his real job. He's a graphic designer by trade, and he handed in his notice. But before I let him go off and do any freelance work, I roped him into the Itty Bitty Book Co business and asked him to design me up 3 separate individual books. And then he just stayed working with us. We made a really good team, and him and I officially went into business when our son was 3 weeks old. So that was back in 2013.
Wow, and there's nothing like a life-changing event like having a baby to totally make sure that you just change everything in your life and start 20 new challenges. We find that talking to women a lot, and even myself, I do think it's a sort of point in your life where you think, do you know what, now is time to really do something I really have been passionate or want to do. And would you have found that? Was it a catalyst for that, do you think?
It really was. And for us both, we knew that having a child was going to completely derail our plans and turn our life upside down. So if we thought, if everything's going to fall apart anyway, let's put it back together in a way that we like more than what it was before. So we just went for it. And it didn't seem like such a huge risk at the time, but the further along it gets down the road, the more we realised that was actually quite crazy. We didn't have savings, we didn't have a network of business support. I never went to university, like I don't have any qualifications. We had £700 and we started the business with that. And but I always joke it was just enthusiasm and passion got us through the first 2 years, and then we actually started to make some money, and then it all worked out okay.
But you're right, and I think, you know, especially things like starting a business, there's really never a good time. You can always find an excuse, you know, like we need to bigger house, or we need an office, or we need and I think it is just grabbing the bull by the horns and saying, do you know what, let's just do it, and back to the passion and the excitement and the motivation drives you on. And so when you started in those early days, obviously, what sort of challenges did you come up against? Or, you know, obviously we're talking to people who are maybe at your stage as well, you know, and I'd be watching this. So what sort of challenges did you find? What were your key challenges?
I think our biggest challenge at the very beginning was that we didn't know what we needed. So thinking back now, there is quite a lot of help and support out there for new businesses and entrepreneurs in Northern Ireland. I think we're very lucky to have the support that we have. But in those very early stages, I didn't know how to be specific enough to ask for the help I needed. And that only came years down the line, where I was able to say to my council, like, I need help with SEO for my website because nobody's getting there organically. But in the beginning, I was just asking people like, oh, I need to sell more things. And that people don't know how to help you unless you're really, really specific. So I think that was probably the biggest thing that we learned, was to be really specific about knowing what we need. And then I think just there's only 24 hours in a day, you know, whenever you're the two of us quit our jobs, so there was a lot of pressure in the beginning. I think it, you know, obviously it might have been smarter if just one of us had have done that, but we went straight into becoming market traders. That's how we ended up getting our kind of weekly wage coming into the business in those early days. And we were casual traders at St George's Market in Belfast. So we used to bundle up our little tiny baby and go down at 7 in the morning and wait and see if we got a stall or not. And sometimes if there was none available, we'd be sent home. So it was just like, it was a lot of work and a lot of hours, way more work than you ever think it's going to be, but it's all fine looking back. But at the time it was really, really difficult. St George's was great for connecting with other business owners, though none of my immediate friends or family were running their own business. So I think if I didn't have that support every week in the market to talk to other people who shared the same challenges as me, I think I would have gone a bit crazy. So that was a good support for us in the early days.
Yeah, and you're right, and you do need that support network, just people that are maybe having the same issues, and back to that, being specific and being able to get the help that you need. Even that helps maybe shape your thought process and be able to support, they are able to support you with the help you need as well. It's so important, and there are so many brilliant programs out there, but you could be spending all day going on programs and still not developing your business or growing if you don't know really what you need.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and you could, especially even the same with networking, you could be networking forever and not actually getting any work done.
100%, yeah.
And so now, so you've set up on the website, you're totally selling online. Do you still go to St George's, or?
No, we actually, we took a big shift in how we ran the business last year, for a number of reasons really, but we wanted to move towards a more online selling platform. We wanted our website to be the main way that we reach our customers. Also because as a young family, we were having to take turns running the market stall, so we never had any family days together now that my son's in school. And that was really important. You know, we started the business because we wanted to have a positive impact, but we also wanted to make our work-life balance better and have that family time. And for 6 years, we just spent every single weekend working. And when he was a baby, it was okay because we could take Monday and Tuesday off, but which we didn't really do very often, but the intention was there. So it was really about creating that work-life balance for us. And so this last year, we've been away from the market for a whole year now, and just solely selling online. And it was a big risk. It felt like quitting our day jobs over again, actually. But as soon as we left, we just knew it was the right thing for us, and it has, and it's been really, really good. I've loved it.
That's amazing. And so you obviously have expanded out from your first 3 designs. So what sort of products and things do you offer now?
So the products that we offer now, we still have the 3 itty bitty books. We have the positivity book, the strength book, and the encouragement book, and then they would still be our bestseller.
Wow.
Our second bestseller at the minute would be our gratitude journal. So we brought that out last year. It's a very bright and fun, colourful 30-day challenge where you just write 3 things a day that you're grateful for, and the benefits of that has been proven to last more than 6 months. So it's a really easy thing that anybody can bring into their life and has like amazing positive benefits. And we launched that last Christmas time, and it's been fantastic to see the response to that. So that's our other main product. We also make some t-shirts that say happy person, and we have tote bags that say totes happy on them, and then a whole range of different posters and postcards, and we do gift boxes for our self-care gift box would be our most popular one.
Wow.
So that's really great for people going through a difficult time, somebody who's maybe lost someone they love. You could send them that's very gentle and encouraging and with nothing too upbeat or insensitive in it. So just for those difficult times, it helps.
So obviously you've got a massive range of customers, but how do you feel about promoting positivity in young people? Because obviously we're possibly stemmed as you embarked on being a mother. And
yes, oh, absolutely. It's so important. Our son's 7 now, and whenever he was just starting school, we started to see little things that we had done with him intentionally, but without really realizing how it would affect him later on. He started to show real emotional resilience, and then that really inspired me to learn more about, like, how did this come about and how can we help other children to build that emotional resilience. And the more research that I did, I really believe that practicing gratitude is one of the simplest ways to teach children to look after their mental health, because when you practice gratitude, you protect yourself from that feeling that can be overwhelming of, well, everything is terrible. And when you're looking at more serious mental health conditions, when it gets dangerous is when people think that everything is terrible, that they can't see any good in their lives, and that's where that sense of hopelessness comes in. And I really love the idea that you can help people to protect themselves from getting to that hopeless stage by just teaching them to notice the good things in their life. So you can be having an awful day or something, or an awful year, really terrible things can happen, but if you've trained your brain to notice the good things, then you'll remember that your friend did ring you yesterday and that was really nice to connect with them, or that you're privileged to be in a position to be able to treat yourself and actually go to the movies and do something that's like self-care related. So just that practice of noticing the good things in your life, even though they're ordinary and not extraordinary, really does help build emotional resilience in children and young and adults. But with young people especially, I think if you can teach them that before they get into high school and before they get into those very difficult teenage years, then you're really doing something great to set them up to have a more positive mental health experience.
You're right, it's just so important, because we keep hearing this, it's a buzzword that we keep hearing, that, you know, children aren't as resilient as they should be, that they find it hard to cope with failure. You know, I come from an education background, so I've been here and I've heard it all, but it is so important, and it is a skill I think that needs to be taught. It's something that I think maybe as a society we've maybe lost a little bit, in that, you know, there is so much stimulation from online and games, and, you know, maybe the social interactions aren't as strong as they used to be, and I do think it's something that's really important that needs to be thought about a little bit more than just expected that children are going to grow up with this, because they're not.
No, you have to be very intentional about bringing that into your child's life or into your classroom if you're a teacher, and there are lots of simple ways to do it. I'm sure it could be overwhelming if you're new to it and you think, well, you know, how am I going to make sure that these kids have positive mental health? You know, you have to break it down into really small things, like practicing gratitude once a day, or just for 1 month out of each term would be an incredible benefit to children, would be really great. And when it comes to the stimulation that they get from outside, you mentioned social media and gaming and things like that, I think it's really important to for us to manage that, and for us to bring in positive role models in those spaces as well, because social media can be so unrealistic and so damaging, and it is just, and it's not always intentional. I think that's just the way it's gone. It was a beautiful thing when it was created, about how to share your highlights and how to connect with people, and people want to show their happy moments, and there's nothing wrong with that, but whenever that creates most of people's connection time rather than real life connections, then it can be really really scary.
Yeah, and I was actually going to ask you about that, because obviously social media can be can be a very positive place, but it also can be a very negative place. So how do you put that spin on your business? Because obviously you're online now, and you know, a lot of your business is done online. So obviously you're putting a lot out through social media. How do you manage that in terms of people and their negativity?
Well, we've had a really interesting journey with it. When we started the business, we started and we had an Instagram account and a Facebook account right from the start. I actually wrote a personal blog before we started the business, so I was quite comfortable sharing bits about my life and the highlight reel, not really realizing what sort of effect that might have on people who don't get to see the full picture, which is everybody who follows us online. And admittedly, it did take quite a while for me to realize that I was actually part of the problem if I'm not sharing that authentic side, and that letting myself be vulnerable online. That was a very big lesson, and it's a really scary thing to do, especially because we're the positivity people. And someone actually stopped me in Tesco and said, "Aren't you the positivity lady?" And I said, "Well, sort of, yeah." So that was a really interesting way. How do I be authentic and show that we have struggles and, you know, terrible weeks as well, while still being professional with our business and our business image, because we want to keep it lighthearted, we want to keep it fun, we want our Instagram page and our website to be somewhere that people can go and be uplifted and encouraged. And it's been a bit of a process, but I think the last 2 years have really helped push us along that road. We've had a lot of personal challenges to deal with. My husband has been suffering from anxiety this last 2 years, and it came out of the blue, just out of nowhere. He's an extremely confident, happy person, and that's just how mental health works. It can affect anybody, and it really did take us by surprise. And that's been a real journey for us to go through together. And he's making amazing progress, and he's dealing with it very well. But it was a real challenge. And also in the last year, I've had 2 miscarriages, and that's something that we chose to share online, not whilst it was happening, but afterwards, to share that these things, you know, they happen to everybody. And we do have a lot of followers and people who would message us and, you know, say that, you know, we're an inspiration because of, you know, it must be great, you know, you have such a great life, or, you know, you look happy all the time. And we just really realized that we're doing people a disservice if we don't share like the real side of it as well. And we needed to do our bit to show people that positivity is not about pretending that everything's okay all the time. And that's a massive misconception, that you can only be grateful when everything's fine, or if you're blessed, or, you know, all of these things. But we found in our real struggles over the last year and a half that actually the emotional resilience that was built up because we had intentionally practiced gratitude for years beforehand, that even in those moments of actually driving to the hospital, dealing with a miscarriage, I said to Al, "This is ridiculous, but I'm so grateful that I knew that this was happening a week ago before the physical side kicked in." And it was the most surreal thing, because I was able to actually be genuinely grateful for having the information before I was on the way to hospital. Whereas if I wasn't used to practicing gratitude, I just don't think that would have ever happened. I would have just been completely overwhelmed and in my own head, and focusing on, you know, the loss. Yeah. So it was really, really helpful to us to have had that gratitude built up in our lives, and almost be just something like a habit, just something that kind of comes naturally. And that was a really positive thing to take out of it, to be grateful for.
And as you say, the fact that you've built up that resilience, it's when the hard times come, you do have that to fall back on.
It's a bit like insurance, you know, like when things are good, if you start to practice these things when you don't think there's any need for it, then, you know, when something comes up and it is really difficult to deal with, then you suddenly realize, I actually do have a bit of a bank of this, and somewhere to pull some strength from, or some inspiration from.
Which is the whole point.
Yeah.
It's not about, as you say, and I love the fact that you're so tuned into your personal brand and what you want to stand for. And it's so important, because as you say, social media, everybody can be beautiful, and their lives are wonderful, and their houses are always clean. This is my thing, their houses are always clean. And it can be a very difficult place for somebody who's seen all that and who is in a bad place. But actually, as you say, sharing difficult times and saying, yes, you know, we have difficult times too, but this is how we use our positivity to pull us out of it, to support ourselves, to support each other. People can really connect with that emotionally, and I think you reach people on a completely different level by showing that there is a vulnerability and a real side to you, and you are real people, and that your life isn't just little birds flapping on your shoulder and everything is bright and rosy.
Exactly.
You know, and there is a real life behind it. And as you say, you don't need to share every episode in your life, but it's just showing people that, you know, there are dark times and there are difficult times, but how you actually use your positivity to pull yourself out of that. And I love the fact that you've a massive awareness of your personal brand and how important that is, because if you are an inspiration to people and people are looking to you, but you're real at the same time, and that's so important in social media, I think, anyway, and it's something that a lot of people aren't.
Yeah, and I think that people are starting to become more and more aware, and a lot of people like to play it humble and be like, oh, I'm not an inspiration, or I'm not influencing anybody. But the truth is, if you have a social media account and anybody is seeing it, you're having an impact on them. Yeah. So anybody who has 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 followers, you're making some kind of impact, and I think it's up to you to decide like what type of impact that you want to make, and just push through that personal fear of being vulnerable, because it never goes away. You're always nervous to hit that post button if you've written something vulnerable or you've made a video. But if you're nervous and then you go and you do it anyway, in my experience, those are the posts that you get the most messages about, that people are just dying for more honest authenticity online. They really just want to see real people. They want to connect with real people, and that's like vulnerability really does that. It really, really does. So I would just encourage people to be brave and be a bit more vulnerable than what you're comfortable with, because it really pays off, and it gives you a real sense of self-confidence as well, because then people are connecting with the real you. They're not connecting with this filtered highlight reel version of you, which is not going to give you very much true satisfaction from, because that's not the real you. It's only a tiny portion of you, and anybody can admire that portion of you. But to get those connections from people, from you being vulnerable, is really satisfying, and it's probably the thing I love most about social media.
Yeah, because you're making those personal connections, because as you say, people are actually getting an insight into your real life. It's not the whole beautiful happiness that's, you know, hopefully mostly there, but
but then the genuineness comes in that as well, that I think people are more genuinely happy for you because they see you as a real person as well. So then when you do have some happy news to share, you feel like you're sharing it with real people, not just like some numbers. So
no, amazing. And so you did a crowdfunding campaign as well recently, so tell us a little bit about that.
That was probably the highlight of last year. That was fantastic. We had taken this idea of bringing positive mental health into schools, because we think that, you know, that's where you reach everybody. A lot of people had been buying our journals to do with their families at home, and to do with their children, and like that's absolutely amazing. But there was part of us that was thinking, well, that's great, but you're so privileged to have parents who can afford to buy those things for you, and who have the emotional intelligence themselves to be bringing that into the home, and just not everybody's equipped to do that, even if their intentions are there. So we wanted to take it to the schools, so we asked our community to come together and help us to bring the gratitude journals into 54 of our local schools, and it was such fun. So we hit our target, and we managed to raise the funds. Our council donated £1,000, which was fantastic, and the rest of the money came from our online supporters and the people who have been following our story and who believe in it. And then it was so much fun. We went around all of the schools and we hand delivered them. We met the teachers, and we have been getting a lot of feedback now that they've had the chance to do the full month, the 30-day challenge with the classroom of children, and some of the teachers, just simple things that they've said. It's just little message saying, we just finished our 30-day challenge. I've really noticed a difference in the kids. The kindness has definitely increased, or people are saying thank you more to each other, and just little things that on the surface might not seem like a really big deal, but then when you hear them again and again and again, over and over again, you think, wow, that's really quite amazing. It is actually having an impact. And especially the classes that did them coming up to exams, they said that they noticed a real difference in some of the children who were maybe more anxious about the exams, or were more inclined to be just very stressed out around that time and unhappy in the classroom. The teacher said individually that they noticed a big difference with certain pupils, and it's those individual stories that I just love the most, because that's where it matters. It's like one kid who was really stressed out, feeling like they're quite overwhelmed and not coping, at the end of the 30-day challenge was actually able to say, like, oh, I didn't do very good on that practice test, but actually I had a really good day anyway because this happened and this happened, and that's what it's all about. So,
and then them actually taking that forward into their daily life going forward, which is even more impactful. You know, it's not that here and now, it is actually that being able to rely back on that resilience, and as you say, build that and keep building on it.
And have it as a tool to fall back on. So if they do it now, then perhaps sometime in high school or a couple of years down the line, they might see something about journaling and remember, oh, that actually was really good, and then pull it out of their toolkit and then just do the 30-day challenge over again and see the impact again. So it's given them a tool to kind of use whenever they need it in their lives, which is great.
And I'm sure you've inspired, I'm sure there's quite a few little primary school children are creating their own little journals at home that are following on. I bet you there's been some have gone home and made them for their families, because, you know, just when I was teaching, things like that would have a massive impact, and kids would go home and make their own little version of it. So believe me, there's probably loads of little gratitude journals floating about that you don't know about.
That's such a nice thought, there really is.
Yeah, that's spreading the word. So what's the goals for Itty Bitty Book Co? What's the future?
Oh, it's a big question. I think the future for Itty Bitty is really just to really carry on what we've been focusing on this last year. Like I mentioned, with our personal circumstances, things have changed a bit. That maybe 3 years ago we would have been much more, we're going to expand and we're going to get distributors in America and we're going to take over the world, and it was very ambitious, which was great and exciting. But this last 2 years has really brought it a little bit smaller and a bit more close to home. You know, we really want to make sure that we're having as big an impact as we can right here in Northern Ireland, and we just really want to keep making those personal connections. And as long as we keep hearing those stories of, you know, individual people that have found real comfort or real benefit with our products, then I feel like we're winning. So I just want to keep doing that and keep practicing what we're preaching about our work-life balance and my mental health and my family's mental health, and to just keep that at the forefront whilst making a positive impact. So I guess in a way our kind of goals have shrunk a little bit, but they feel really good to us at the minute, and who knows, maybe a couple of years we'll be back on to the take over the world.
But that's it. That's part of running a successful business, is knowing when to expand and when to not, and when to hold back and when's right for you, because you could bull on ahead and say, you know, let's expand, and maybe you're both not in the right frame of mind for it. You maybe don't have the structure behind you to do it, and it can end up being a disaster. And actually being smart in business is knowing when's the time to say, hold on, no, we do need an extra year, or we do need time. And it's so important, because business changes every day. What you think you were going to do tomorrow, well, if it's anything like in here, what I have my plans and what I'm going to do tomorrow, could just completely change with one phone call or one email or one meeting or one person that you meet. So it's amazing that I'm being able to actually be very mindful of that. And you obviously, you know, the both of you know your business inside out and what's best for you, and it's great to have actually that foresight to say, hold on, no, this maybe isn't right for us at the minute. Let's hold back and not just keep on going. So very exciting times. It's been absolutely amazing to meet you. If someone wanted to come buy some products or contact you, what's the best place? Is it the website?
Yeah, head to our website. It's just www.ittybittybookco.com, and we're just at Itty Bitty Book Co on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. So
perfect, and we'll have those put on the screen, so don't worry.
Brilliant.
So it's been absolutely amazing to chat to you.
Thank you so much.
As I say, I do feel the positivity in the room, so it's just been a really nice experience, and I'm definitely, there's quite a few things I'm going to take away from it as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's all from us today at ProfileTree TV. It's been a really interesting conversation, and we hope to see you all again soon.